Californians were largely outraged as gas approached $4, $5, $6 a gallon, in LA at $7 and $8 a gallon. And everyone was screaming for answers. And the legislature and the governor came together on a plan for what they sort of a windfall profit tax on oil companies, and they were going to investigate for gouging and identify the culprits and make sure they clawed back any excess dollars that were discovered. I don't think it'll come to anyone's surprise that there have been $0 that have been clawed back, and in fact the data that the administration has produced through the California Energy Commission's exhaustive review of records shows that almost 10 times as much is collected in gas tax as oil companies make in profits. If the oil company's making 10 cents a gallon in profit, the government is charging over $1 a gallon in taxes. And so if you're outraged about the amount of money that oil companies are making, just know that government is making 10 times that same amount. The idea behind the windfall profits tax was that Californians were being gouged by greedy oil companies who were just charging more than they could in some conspiratorial fashion. All the gas station owners and oil companies were getting together and deciding to gouge Californians. And that comes about partly because California has mandates that the only gas available for sale in California is a California-only version of gasoline. It's not a version for sale in Nevada or Arizona or our neighboring states or anywhere else in the country. So all of that gasoline is refined in California and is for use only in California. And so that means any maintenance, any shutdown, any accident, any disruption anywhere in that system, and a tight supply of gasoline quickly shrinks, which increases the price as Californians still want to drive or drive more. In certain cases, you have planned outages for routine maintenance that are required to keep up with a wide variety of California employment and environmental and workplace safety laws, rules, and regulations that every refinery is subject to. And they're not allowed to coordinate or sync up when those things happen, because that would be collusion, that would spike prices. And then accidents happen or things break. And any of those disruptions, when you've artificially engineered a super tight market, means that prices increase, because the only way to get Californians to use less is to charge more. And when you charge more, the usage requirement goes down and the system becomes back into balance until whatever the bottleneck is in the refining process gets worked out. And there hasn't been a new refinery built in California in decades. And so we have this aging gasoline infrastructure that I think largely explains the true cost of California's high gas prices, which is just a horrible regulatory environment. The legislature decided to fund a variety of different road and improvement programs with taxes on gasoline. And so you have annual increases tied to the price of gasoline, and it's more and more every year. That's on top of federal taxes on gasoline. That's on top of cap and trade taxes related to the greenhouse gas emissions. You have local fees and taxes, all of that's embedded into the price of a gallon of gas. I don't think the government is taxing gasoline as a way to punish Californians. They have sincere environmental goals that they're trying to achieve, and they, at the core, believe that burning carbon is a threat to the planet, that the The carbon is a risk that must be mitigated, and we need to transition away from carbon and to cleaner sources of transportation like electric vehicles. And so one way to get people to drive less, to use public transportation, to use buses, trains, electric vehicles, is to increase the cost of using Californians' preferred choice of vehicle, which is gas. And so by increasing the cost of gas, you improve air quality, you increase the likelihood that people will use public transportation, and you generate revenue for the state to service the infrastructure that services cars. And so I'm not saying that the people behind the gas tax are somehow nefarious or evil, but I do find it ironic that the people who assume the oil companies are being greedy are taking much more money out of the everyday Californian's pocket to meet their needs than the people that are making the gasoline that facilitate the lifestyle of the way Californians prefer to live. And they're doing it very efficiently. It's a known technology that's existed for more than 100 years. We know the process of doing it. We have the cleanest oil extraction of anywhere in the world and the safest translation of that oil into gasoline. And we do it cleaner and better in California than anywhere in the world. And so encouraging that would seem to make sense, but others disagree. A windfall tax could have an impact because what's considered a windfall is totally arbitrary. If a company is generating an enormous return, competitors will flock to that space in order to reap those returns, and the competition in the space will drive down profit. That's how we allocate dollars in a free system. Well, for the government to step in and say this is the right amount of profit, they would have to understand the risk and the alternatives and have deep insight into those billions of other transactions on why investors are putting the money in all those other places. They just don't have that expertise. It's a hubris to think that you know better than the entire market on what the right return for a particular investment is. If you lower the rate of return for that particular investment dollars will flee to other investments. If people can't make money doing this in a risk-adjusted way, they'll go do something else. And what I fear is that when you have a government that dictates a segment of the economy can make this much money, why do we think the central planning government would be better than the market at determining where those investment dollars can be? It's a threat to liberty of everybody, because why this industry and not this other one, or this other one, or this other one? You could spread it out, and the truth is we just don't have that expertise to know what the right number is. If somebody's making excess profit, competitors will come in and drive the price down. That's what happens. I think the direction of gas is higher and higher in California because the infrastructure to produce it is aging and the demand is not being significantly reduced, and there's money to be made in selling gasoline in California, and so people will continue to do it while it's still legal, and to get the returns out of their existing assets and infrastructure, they're going to charge a price that makes it profitable for them to do that. And the more we regulate and the more expensive it is to operate, the higher reward investors are going to have to get in order to continue to put money into the system. And so I think a better way to do it would be to sync our markets with the rest of the country, so we weren't beholden to California only requirements for gasoline, and so that a minor disruption to a California refinery was not so painful for every Californian.
If you haven't checked out CaliforniaInsider.com, we highly recommend you do that now because we're going to have a lot of news and videos there. And on top of what we have there right now, we are building a really big platform to cover what's happening in California so you can be informed. We're going to have more shows, more videos from all aspects of life in California. Go to CaliforniaInsider.com and we'll see you there.